Professor Eugene Cloete. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. Congratulations on this launch. Some people might be saying, what on earth will you be doing that's different, that's you couldn't do in your geography department or your meteorological department?
Hi, thank you very much, Peter, and good evening. Well, you know, when we talk about climate studies, it's multidisciplinary. You have to look at legislation, you've got to look at the science, renewable energy, water, and many other aspects. So what makes the school unique is the fact that it is actually across all of our faculties to bring together the expertise that we have to address a really crisis that we face at the moment in terms of climate. So the uniqueness of the school is that it brings together about 35 scientists, many of them world leaders in the field of climate change, and we will have all of them under one umbrella so that they can collaborate to really impact on the challenges that we face with regards to climate change and climate studies.
All right, so is this a school of research then predominantly, as opposed to teaching about climate change?
Well, it's both. It really is about the research, the fundamental research to understand how we mitigate climate change. But it is also about the practical aspects. It's about how do we translate the fundamental research into practice? How do we come up with solutions that can be implemented in the short term to mitigate climate change? Obviously, we need the capacity, we need the people, we need the graduates that can go into government and into industry to make the right decisions when it comes to mitigating climate change. But it really is about all of the aspects. It's definitely not only about an ivory tower research project. It is about translating the research that we have, and you need the fundamental research, of course, to translate that into practice, but it is about making a difference on the ground.
All right, you're talking about multidisciplinary across all faculties. Just break it down a little bit by giving us maybe an example of how this might work. For example, I've just graduated with honours with a BCom. How do I then engage with this school and make a difference?
Well, it really is. You know, we work with two big ecosystems here. The one is the economy system, the other is the natural system. And it's about how we balance the natural and the economic system. The interesting thing is the natural system, of which we are part of course, has evolved over thousands, millions of years, in fact, and it's very efficient. When we look at the economic system, which is also a complex system, it's a man-made system. It really came about since the early 1900s, and it's unpredictable. So the challenge is really how do we balance economic growth with the climate resilience? Unfortunately, what we have done, and it's although we've created it ourselves, the economic system, it's very unpredictable. But what the challenge really is to say, well, how do we balance economic growth together with the system of our ecosystem of which we are a part of?
So a lot of research, I'm sure, will be about South African conditions, given that we certainly have our own unique problems and challenges that are quite different from other parts of the world. But I suppose that part of the work will be contributing knowledge to the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you look at the challenges we face, it is both very local, of course, when we look at where we are located, on the southern tip of Africa. We've got oceans surrounding us. We're in a unique position to study climate, of course, and the challenges that we face with climate change. But it's not only in South Africa, it's very much regional, and it is on the continent. Although we produce less than 3% of the greenhouse gases, particularly carbon dioxide, we are not excluded in terms of the effects of climate change. We might get temperatures in the region, in sub-Saharan Africa, where it might become unbearable to live. So what we are looking at is not only at the local impact, but also at the regional impact, the continental impact, and then, of course, the global impact. So we have a very important role to play. We're ideally situated to do studies on climate studies, and we already, of course, we do that. We've got many students at the moment working on different aspects, water, energy, and so on. But it is how do we impact not only in our own region, which is very vulnerable, by the way, but how do we impact also on the global agenda?
How do you bring it all together? You know, you've got, as you say, some students, researchers working on water, others working on other aspects. How do you then bring it all together so that we have a climate solution?
Well, when you look at the technology that we have developed, you know, this goes from efficient water usage and water management to renewable energy, whether this is using solar energy or wind energy or the oceans and the energy that we can get from there. All that is very well. Very important here is the legislation, of course, that is required to implement all of this. But even more important is the social adaptability or social change. Technology will go a long way to help us to mitigate climate change. But together with that, we will also have to change our behavior. So the social sciences are extremely important here in terms of how do we change our behavior, how do we change our consumption, transport systems, and how do we help each other really to move forward without impacting on climate.
I mean, are we starting to look towards all undergraduate degrees having a module in climate knowledge, climate studies as well? Because I guess that's the foundation of this all-encompassing discipline.
Absolutely, Peter. I mean, if you want to really make a difference, you've got to start at the undergraduate level. So we're looking at what we would call Climate 101, so that all of our students that graduate from the university will have a very good understanding of what climate studies involves, what climate change involves. So when they graduate, even if they don't go on with their postgraduate studies at the master's and PhD level, but when they end up in the industry and in business and in government, that they would know what the right decisions are to be made.
All right. And I wonder if that means that you'll also be bringing some of these champions that are in government, that are in business, to the school, or bringing knowledge to them somehow.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Peter, we are collaborating with industry. We've got a number of industry partners, very big organizations. They are looking for answers. So part of what the school will do is to run short courses. These are not degree programs, but short courses which will help people to understand in their business what they can do to mitigate their impact on climate. So it really is a partnership here between academia and industry and, of course, the government. We've got very big support, of course, from the government itself. Climate studies is part of the decadal plan of the Department of Science and Innovation. But industry is also very responsible when it comes to climate mitigation. We also know what to do. We just have to implement this. It's not magic. It's difficult, though, but what we can do is to implement what we already know. And there are many things here over and above just renewable energy. Transport, of course, is a big issue. The way that we transport to work and all over the world, in fact, is one of the biggest areas that we can impact, and also reducing the carbon emissions. It's also interesting that something like carbon tax, for instance, is a very good way to counter the emissions that we produce as a result of transport, but also other, we use fossil fuel to a large extent to produce energy still in South Africa and other parts of the world. Moving towards renewable energy, specifically in Africa, provides us with the opportunity to leapfrog perhaps in Africa the mistakes we've made in the developed world. So we are optimistic that with the challenges that climate change brings, there are also many opportunities for new technologies, but also many opportunities for creating new jobs.
it's just been launched, so it's still very, very new. When do you think we'll start to see some real dividends from this knowledge development?
Well, I think, we're looking at the short term here, short to medium term. I think we can impact already within the next 5 years. I don't believe that we should look at mitigating climate change. When many people talk about 2040, 2050, that will be too late, by the way. It will be too late for the world. We are, at the moment, already experiencing some of the negative effects of climate change. We have seen floods in Europe. It's also the first world now that is being impacted by climate change. We see all these fires all around the world. In America, we've seen them in South Africa. We've seen many natural disasters as a result of climate change. So we can't wait until 2040. The agenda has to be pushed forward. We're looking at 5 to 10 years to make the difference. It is now the time that we make the decisions that can, create a spectacular future for the next generations. If we don't get it right now, it will be a spectacular failure for the generations to come.
All right. A little bit earlier on, you said that you're hoping to roll this out far and wide. I hope that other universities across the country will start to follow suit and you work together.
Well, absolutely. I mean, there's no doubt. We have pockets of excellence at many of the leading universities in South Africa. We have great partnerships in Africa. And this is not an effort by Stellenbosch University only. This is an initiative which will span across all of the South African universities, also many of the leading universities in Africa. We have partnerships internationally with the Global University Alliance on Climate. These are 8 leading universities internationally. And the aim there is to start by creating universities that are carbon neutral. We are very much on track there as far as Stellenbosch University is concerned. And once we create a carbon neutral university, and we have the example, we can scale that. We can multiply that to all universities around the world. That will spill over to industry. And I really think this will make a significant difference, and it is doable.
Well, we certainly wish you the best of luck. Our planet really is depending on initiatives such as yours. Professor Cloete, thank you so much indeed for joining us, and good luck.
Thank you very much, Peter.